Welcome to the Weekly Report. For Randall Riley, I'm Joshua Miller. We got a lot to get to this week, so let's start the report for Wednesday, May 26th, 2021. This week in job board searches and clicks. Last week's click activity on truck driver postings remained flat while searches decreased. It would seem that while the pool of drivers searching for jobs is shrinking, those that are looking are actively searching as opposed to simply browsing. Truck driver searches were down 25% week over week, 41% month over month, and 19% year over year, while clicks on truck driver postings were flat week over week, up 36% month over month, and up 11% year over year. One final note here on job board activity before we move on. You may want to keep in mind that some states are now requiring proof of searching for a job to continue receiving any unemployment benefits. That means that there is the possibility that there could be some out there looking, clicking, and even applying with no real intent to begin driving. While this is a possibility, there is no direct evidence in the numbers so far to indicate that this is happening at the moment. It is, however, something you may want to keep in mind and monitor as you move forward with your recruiting this year. This week in freight, load postings took a hit and dropped by 10% week over week as spot load volume returned to the levels more in line with what we saw prior to Roadcheck week. None of the three major segments were immune to this drop, and load postings as dry van fell by 15%, refrigerated dropped by 10%, and flatbed was down by 8% week over week. As load volume decreased, overall truck postings increased by 5% week over week. Dry van availability dipped by 3%, while refrigerated and flatbed both saw gains in truck availability. Refrigerated was up by 4%, while flatbed was up by 5% week over week. And with the decrease of load postings and increase in truck availability, the ratio of loads to trucks has now returned to the level recorded just prior to the Roadcheck event. Spot rates rose by 3 cents per mile week over week to set a record high. Dry van rates fell by 1/2 cent, while refrigerated rose by 2 cents, and flatbed sets yet another record, with rates rising by 3 cents per mile week over week. And now for our story of the week. As the economy and American workforce continue to recover from COVID-19 and the resulting shutdowns, trucking carriers are still struggling to find drivers. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that trucking industry employment is still currently 3% below the level that was notched in January of 2020. That's just prior to all of this pandemic chaos. So the question that begs to be asked is, why is trucking struggling to fill seats? With many states opening and all of us just trying to find some sense of normalcy, where have all the drivers gone? Let's take a look at company drivers first. Employment is currently below pre-COVID levels, but there doesn't seem to be any evidence of elevated numbers of company drivers sitting out on the sidelines. In this case, it would seem that the major problem fleets face is new driver recruitment, as the flow of new company drivers coming into the industry, well, those numbers are well below historic norms. It's a different story with owner-operators, as statistical data indicate active employment within that driver segment is at or above pre-pandemic levels. And this comes even as there is evidence to show that elevated numbers of owner-ops are staying out of the labor market. So what gives? How is it that owner-operator levels haven't seemed to suffer, but an above-average number of owner-ops are currently not seeking driving jobs? Well, the answer can be found in the profitable freight market. With such a strong market, an abnormally high number of company drivers are now making the jump and becoming owner-operators, which, as you can imagine, also contributes to that lack of company driver availability we talked about just a moment ago. The final driver segment we'll examine here is that of women drivers. Although comprising only a small portion of the overall trucking industry employment, women drivers are currently employed at a higher percentage than prior to the pandemic. How much higher? 2.3% higher, to be exact. That may not sound impressive, but consider this. Employment is currently down by 4% for male drivers compared to pre-pandemic numbers. And that gap only widens when looking at companies that are offering local and or regional hauls. In that particular category, employment of women is up by 18%, while the employment of men is down by 2%. So, while women don't make up a large portion of the driver population, this increase could indicate that women are more open to the profession and perhaps specifically targeting women is something you should pursue. Consider your messaging and actively seeking out new or veteran women drivers. And while we're on the subject of women drivers, why don't you head on over and check out She Drives. She Drives focuses on addressing the unique issues women face on the road. Things like personal safety, health, and the best driving jobs for women. They're all covered. So if you do decide to more actively target women drivers, it could be a great resource to help you understand exactly what they go through on a day-to-day basis and exactly what makes them tick. And that does it for this week's report. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope that you found this content useful and informative. If you did, give us a like, follow us, share it, all that good stuff. And don't forget, down in the description on YouTube and in the body of our blog page for today's report, you can find the PDF containing all of the information we covered in today's report. I'll also leave a link for She Drives down there for you too. And over on the blog, we also have Numbers at a Glance visual tool, a link to an audio version of the report, and the transcript for today's show. All right? Well, that's it. We'll see you back here again next Wednesday when we take another look back to help you move forward. And until then, have a great week, everybody.